Hello and welcome to i-nastava. Today's English class is for the third year of high school and the topic is plastic pollution. My name is Stephanie Kate Lukač and I'll be your teacher for the day. By the end of today's class, you're going to have analyzed information about different plastic products and the effect they have on the environment. In addition, you'll make a digital poster about environmental cleanups. For the class, you're going to need something to write with, your notebooks, some kind of device with internet connection, and if possible, a QR code scanner. Feel free to pause the video anytime you like. To begin with, what comes to mind when you think of plastic? Please pause the video to make a plastic product mind map. You'll need a few minutes to do so, and whether you choose to make one by hand, on your computer, or using an online version is up to you. I'm certain it won't be too difficult for you to do, since we've got plastic all around us in our everyday lives. As you can see, I had a lot of ideas about the different plastic products in our lives. When it comes to drinks, we all use cups, straws, or bottles with their caps or lids. Sometimes when we're hosting an event at home for a special occasion, we buy plastic cutlery because it's easier than washing all the dishes that come with celebrations and dozens of guests. I just realized I've forgotten plastic plates as well. Most of the time in stores or shops, we have the choice to buy different plastic bags, although many of them have been turning away from the plastic options and moving towards paper or cloth. Produce bags are the small flimsy plastic bags we pick up to buy fruit or vegetables. The wrappers or packaging, on the other hand, are a different story. A large number of the food we buy is wrapped in some type of plastic, which could be something to think about when we go shopping next time. I'm not sure if any of you have forgotten about hygienic products, such as shampoo, body wash, or deodorant. They come in all shapes and sizes, in plastic bottles or covers, of course. Seeing this directly on paper or on your screen, does it make you think about what we're doing to our environment? Have you ever contemplated the consequences? I'd like you to click on the first link or scan the QR code, which takes you to National Geographic. Please read through the article about plastic pollution in the world. Once you've finished, there's a vocabulary matching exercise by clicking on the second link or using the QR code. Please pause the video and good luck. Remember to send your results to your teacher, as you'll be able to see your score at the end. I hope you've done well on that assignment, as well as learned something new in the process. Did you know all of that before? Well, before we get to another task on plastic and the damage it does in the world, I'd like you to pause the video in order to make this chart in your notebooks. The left side is already filled in for you with bottles 1, 2, and 3. You'll need to fill in the information about the course each bottle takes, or what happens to the bottle when you throw it out. Now would be a good time for that pause button. By clicking on this link or scanning the QR code, it'll open up a YouTube video about plastic bottles. Don't forget to fill in the chart that you've made while you're watching it. Once again, pause the video and then open the link. Sit back with your charts handy and you might even learn something you didn't know before. Here you can check your work to see how you've done. My version is the note-taking version, which is common when doing exercises like this. You don't need full sentences. As long as you've got the main points and your teacher can understand what you've written, that's the main thing. The first bottle traveled to a landfill and became soaked after months or years of rain. As it decomposes and the rainwater causes the ground to absorb the toxic compounds from the plastic, it becomes leachate. If you're not sure about what leachate is after watching the video, it's exactly what I've just explained. liquid which is filled with environmentally harmful substances such as plastic. So, the rainwater picked up the harmful chemicals from plastic, and this liquid form is leachate. It gets into the ground and waterways, pretty much the whole ecosystem. With bottle 2, it was thrown out and floated into all the waterways until finally ending up in the ocean. It gets drawn into a vortex or a gyre. Depending on where it was thrown out, it will end up in one of 5 gyres around the world. All the garbage that ends up there causes the animals to either become entangled in that mess, or they eat it, and in turn it ends up going up the food chain, many times on our plates. That's something to really think about. If you're not worried enough about the animal world, think of humans as well. With the third and final bottle, it was put into the appropriate recycling bin and taken to a plant. After the process of compression, shredding, cleaning, and melting it down, the original plastic product becomes a whole new product after reprocessing. The 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. To reduce or decrease plastic use in everyday life. To reuse, for example, take a plastic water bottle and refill it instead of buying a new one right away. Recycling is sorting your garbage according to material and putting it in separate containers. For example, besides plastic, you can also recycle paper, tins or cans, or glass. In recent years, a few more R's have been added: refuse and repurpose. To refuse or decline means saying no to using plastic. For example, don't use plastic shopping bags in the stores. Take a cloth bag in order to store your purchased items. Repurpose is similar to reuse in the sense that you're taking something plastic, glass, aluminum, whatever, but you're changing its use. For instance, some people have taken old tires and used them as decorative planters in their garden for flowers. Rethink is somewhat similar to refuse because you're thinking about whether you really need to buy something or not, being more conscious of spending habits as well as waste. Repair speaks for itself. Instead of throwing something away, for instance clothes, you should fix or repair them. You're going to listen to 3 people talking about the 3 R's I've just mentioned: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Can you match which speaker is talking about which R? Please pause the video first in order to write this down. Here we go. Speaker A.
I always try to utilize any plastic products numerous times. For example, when I take the sandwich to work, I use Ziploc bags, but instead of throwing them out or even recycling, I retrieve them, wash them with hot soapy water at home, and leave them to dry. Or if I know I'm going to stay late at work, I'll bring my lunch with me using my Tupperware containers. They're very durable and will last me a very long time. In this way, I'm using plastic products, but not in a wasteful manner. I feel we should all do our part to help the environment.
Speaker B.
I try to keep my use of plastic to a minimum. Since it's so ubiquitous, each of us needs to make our personal contribution if we want to decrease plastic pollution. Whenever I can, I decline buying disposable bottles and refill them a few times. In addition, I take my cloth bags whenever I go to the grocery store so that I'm not using the plastic ones. A documentary about the environment is what prompted me to make these changes, and I don't regret it one bit.
Speaker C.
My family and I always, and I mean always, sort out our trash. I feel it is extremely important to pass this habit on to my children, since our planet will be their concern when they are older. Paper is retrieved into the blue container, plastic and aluminum in the yellow one. When it comes to glass, the company issues blue bags and we can put our used bottles there. What's great about it is the fact that the amount of other garbage is reduced. Overall, a win-win situation.
I don't think that was too hard, but just to make sure, check over your answers. Speaker B spoke about plastic reduction. Speaker A spoke about reuse of plastic products. And Speaker C spoke about recycling. Have you ever thought about what would happen if we recycled more, or thought about what we buy when shopping? You might think that there would be less waste in landfills, or perhaps we would spend less money by paying for the garbage we throw out. You might think that if we recycled more, we would be more satisfied because we're doing our part in helping the environment. There are so many options. Some of you might have thought about the past while reading the article or watching the video. What would have happened if we had reduced our plastic consumption? The world wouldn't have become so polluted, that's for sure. What about plastic ending up in the environment? Did you think about what would have happened if it hadn't? So many animals would have been saved because they wouldn't have eaten all that plastic and died because of it. I'm sure you figured out that I was talking about the second and third conditionals. Be careful with which one you need to use. In the second type, things can still change. It might be less likely to happen, but it's not too late. For example, people can still stop and think about what they're buying so that they don't buy what they don't need. There's still the possibility to change their habits in that first sentence in the second conditional. Note the form in this conditional. The if clause uses the simple past, and the main clause uses the present conditional form, or would plus the infinitive form of the verb. You can use could, for example, instead of would. However, when you use the third conditional, no changes are possible because it's already happened in the past. For example, we hadn't reduced our plastic consumption in the past, and that's why it's so polluted now. The damage is already done. This didn't happen, so now we regret what we've done in the past. Note the form. In the if clause, you need to use the past perfect. In your main clause, you're using the past conditional form, or would have plus the past participle. In many cases, you can also use could instead of would here too. Don't forget that the conditional sentences don't always start with the if clause. The only difference is that you don't use a comma in between phrases when you don't start the sentence with if. I hope you've understood this part of the lesson. Now I'd like you to try it out. Pause the video in order to write these sentences in both the second and third conditional sentences. You'll be able to check your work in a bit, and good luck. Here you can check to see how you've done. Again, pause the video so you can see if or where you've made any mistakes when using the second conditional. On this screen, you can check your answers for the third conditionals. Once again, pause the video in order to go through them thoroughly. In my experience, many students forget to insert the have in between would and the past participle, so be careful with that. Also, if you've contracted the had or would into apostrophe D, for example, if I'd used reusable bags, less plastic would have made it into the ocean. That's fine as well. However, don't forget that you can't contract them all the time. Don't forget to send your checked answers to your teacher so that he or she can assist you if you're having any trouble. With these links on the screen, or QR codes, You'll be able to watch 2 short videos on how to reduce plastic in your lives. After you've seen them and thought about their contents, make a recording of your opinion on the subject. What do you feel would be the easiest things to do? What about the hardest things? Do you think you can make a difference? Why or why not? Do you have any other ideas on how to reduce plastic waste? Share your thoughts in a 3 to 5 minute recording and send it to your teacher. Remember to be yourself. You can use Vocaroo.com, for example, which is the easiest digital tool to use for recording. For the last part of our lesson, have you ever heard of an environmental cleanup? If you haven't, I'm talking about an organized activity which is held on a local, regional, or national level. The goal of the cleanup is to rid the seas, coasts, or land of all the garbage and waste that for some reason people feel is their personal dumping ground. Well, in some cases, it's not a direct dump. For example, sometimes beaches and coasts become filled with trash because of the current drawing it there. Nonetheless, people throw their waste in nature, which is not a designated area for garbage, which I find extremely distressing and depressing. With these cleanups, individuals who take part in them not only clean the area of trash, but also sort through it to recycle what can be recycled. Kudos to these great people. I'd like you to make a digital poster of a cleanup that takes place near you. Find any and all information about it and put your poster together. Get as creative as you want. If you're not sure of how to make a digital poster or which digital tool to use, you can click on the links or scan the QR codes about Adobe Spark or Canva to help you. Don't forget that you need to be careful with the images you use. They must be free images, without royalties or copyright. If you're not sure about where you can find such pictures, you can go to unsplash.com or pixabay.com and you'll find loads of free images there. Remember to send your digital poster to your teacher. Get your knowledge and creative juices flowing. Who knows? Some of you might become interested in one of these activities and take part. It all starts with one person to expand and make a difference. Finally, take a moment to think about and write down the following. How can you apply what you learned today to your own life in a meaningful way? If you were the teacher, which part of the lesson would be the easiest to explain, as well as the hardest part? I hope you've enjoyed the lesson and are able to take something with you. Will you think a little more about the amount of plastic you're using every day and throwing out? Take care of yourselves and stay healthy.